Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the inaugural From Paws to Claws Visionary 2020 series. We are in our third month and are so appreciative for our first-time participants, as well as those who have returned. Your Office of Alumni Relations is grateful to each of you. We will continue to bring remarkable alumni to expound on relevant topics that will support our recent graduates, as well as alumni who are seeking career change and those who just wish to lend their support. As always, we wish to thank the alumni panelists who have shared their area of expertise. We do not seek you out. You come with your spirit of a mighty panther, which we are, sharing your knowledge base when the call to participation went forth. As we continue to dedicate this new series to the Perfect Vision class of 2020, and as they exercise their ability to be visionaries, let me share a tad bit of history on the Office of Alumni Relations signature event titled From Paws to Claws. The Alumni Student Networking event was originally designed in 2008 when Kareem Taylor, class of 2010, in his sophomore year, expressed that students should learn from alumni. Over the years, we continuously call on the alumni community to embrace our alumni in waiting, commonly known as students. We encircle them until they become a member of the only permanent constituency of our alma mater. As cubs, they develop through discovery, academically, socially, and spiritually, finding their way as their talents grow into claws and become fully entrenched felines of the service, locally, nationally, and globally, while remembering to provide financial support to the institution that placed them in the world and remembering to provide financial support to the institution. One quick announcement. We are happy to state that we will begin to do webinars twice a month. Yes, we heard you, so we'll be offering them in the daytime and in the evening. As we begin our exchange, I would like to express thanks to my colleague, Chastity B. Evans, class of 2010, who serves as the program manager in the Office of Alumni Relations. She will be your host, for she created this space and will provide the interaction. Chastity, it is now time for you to begin the conversation.
Thank you so much, Alumna Gala and E. Gatewood Joshua, for that wonderful introduction and historical context. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining your Office of Alumni Relations for the Vision 2020 series, Professionals, Positivity as a Driver of Connection and Resilience. Special thank you to alumna Dr. Michelle Rhodes, Program Specialist for the Office of Online Learning and Continuing Education, for being the technical commander behind all of our webinars. Thank you so much. As we go down the menu, let's go ahead and go to our housekeeping rules. Before we get started, if you all have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel. I will bring them up during our Q&A section to discuss. Now, without further ado, introducing our first panelist for this evening is alumnus Kafabian A. Hurd. Alumnus Hurd is a marketing professional at Clark Atlanta University. He is also a proud alumnus of the institution. Alumnus Hurd is a licensed minister and has been preaching the word of God for 12 years. He has served as a high school educator for 5 years, where he had the honor of teaching at his high school alma mater. Alumnus Hurd is currently pursuing his master's degree in counseling. Affectionately known as FABE, Alumnus Hurd has recently founded the company known as the FABE Effect, where he is able to operate in all of his gifts. The FABE Effect is best described as a multi-dimensional business that Alumnus Hurd established through entrepreneurship, motivational speaking, being a licensed life coach, talent consultant, and graphic designer. He is also a humble brother of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He lives by the words, "Service is the rent you pay while here on earth." What a great quote. Thank you so much, Alumnus Hurd, today for being a part of this panel and for always continuing to serve your alma mater. How are you doing today? And you're on mute.
I am great, Chastity. I'm glad to see you as well.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and dig right into your first question for today. Are you ready?
I am.
All right now. So developing resilience can help people cope adaptively and bounce back after changes, challenges, setbacks, disappointments, and failures. Tell us about a time you faced adversity, which led to overall resilience.
Well, I can definitely think back to the time I graduated from Clark Atlanta University. Postgraduate life is real, and it really set in home when I had to go back home to Memphis. And I always promised myself that I was not going to go back home. I was not going to go back home no matter what it took. And I had to go back home to Memphis after I graduated from Clark Atlanta University. And I went through a stage of depression, but it was my resilience that kept me going, because I knew that, I went and got this education for a reason. I knew that this degree meant something to me, but I had to make it work, and I had to change my mindset. So I think it definitely starts at the mind. It starts in how you think about yourself. And so I promised myself that I was going to, one, get employed, and I was, two, going to start teaching. So as I took the test to teach, I was working as a manager at Macy's. One thing the degree did do is you go straight to Macy's, you go straight to management and retail when you have a degree. And so I literally just stepped out on faith, and I kept my mindset set on the goal. And I literally walked into my alma mater high school, and I just said that I had a meeting with the principal, and I really didn't. And the principal just happened to be my 6th grade English teacher.
Wow.
And that's how real God is. And he walked up, he laughed because he knew me. And the next week I was hired as an educator at my alma mater. So I think it definitely starts with the mindset. I think you have to definitely bounce back from one feeling like you're a failure, because you could easily feel like you're a failure when you have that moment of doubt, especially leaving undergrad. You feel like, okay, I got this degree, what does it mean? And when the jobs don't come rolling in and the opportunities don't come right off back, you instantly feel like I failed. I didn't do the right thing. I didn't, make the right decisions. But it starts in your mind. You have to first manifest and put those things out there, the things that you want out of life. And I put that I want to be an educator out there, and God made it happen. So definitely starts with your mindset.
That's that true definition of resilience, adversity, and overcoming all types of setbacks and failures. And the true motto of "I'll find a way and make one." I mean,
definitely find a way and make one.
You definitely utilize that, along with Culture for Service, and you made it happen. So, going into your second question, which is a good quote that came from the late Dr. Al Siebert. He wrote that highly resilient people are flexible, they adapt to new circumstances quickly, and they thrive in constant change, which currently right now at CAU, we're having to do that. You have to be resilient, and you have to thrive in this new normacy of constant change. So most importantly, they expect to bounce back and feel confident that they will. In your opinion, why do some people have a knack for creating good luck out of circumstances that many others see as bad luck? And, what do we learn or get out of that?
Well, this question hit home for me so much, because I'm a firm believer that your attitude determines your altitude. It's all about your attitude, about anything that you go into. It's all about how you first see the situation, how you first see yourself. So you have to, first of all, change your attitude about the situation. And I think that's why why people think things are luck, but it's really just because that person's attitude is so fixed on achievement. It's so fixed on making things happen no matter what. Another thing is manifestation. I believe that manifestation is real. I believe in waking up every morning and manifest those things you want to see in your life. Not only manifest, but working towards those things and trusting the process. So I think your attitude, manifestation, and trusting the process, those three things will definitely lead you in the right direction. And I believe that's why you see people that may have failed at one thing or did something that you may have thought that wasn't the right thing to do, but they bounced back so well because they had an attitude of like, this is not the end for me. And you have to always think, you have to always put in your mind that this is not the end. I'm not done. No matter what has happened, I am not done because my attitude is that I can make this shake too. Find a way or make one is real. When I say find a way or make one is real, Clarkland University has definitely prepared us to be beasts in this world in terms of like endurance, in terms of resilient. If you find a way or make one and you change your attitude about the situation, I promise you will come out on the winning side every time.
It's definitely that diamond in the rough effect. Clark Atlanta takes the coal, and at the end of those 4 years, you're a bright and shiny diamond, and you're you're ready to take on the world. And that I can definitely say that we are proud of you, Alumnus Heard, for your fave effect. We're down and we're behind you 100% because everybody on this call who's known you, we've always known that you've always had a positive attitude and you've always had that go-getter spirit. So we need alums like you in this world to always preach the great word, to always represent CAU, and to always go forward and be determined. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Evans.
You're welcome. If you all have any questions for Alumnus Heard, please type them into the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel now. We will be sure to get to them during our Q&A session. Wonderful job, Fave. That was that Fave effect. Y'all saw that, right?
Hey.
Now, introducing our next panelist for this afternoon is another go-getter, home winner, Texan. She on the ground every time. You think she live here, but she really doesn't, but it's cool. Alumna Norris. Alumna Norris hails from Houston, Texas, and she is a proud graduate of Clark Atlanta University's Olympic class of 1996. Alumna Norris received a BA in Speech Communications and Theater Arts with a concentration in Theater Arts and a Master's of Education in Curriculum and Instruction. She is a member of the lovely first sorority ever, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Alumna Norris has served at Stafford Municipal School District for 24 years. She taught theater for 9 years and currently works as an educational diagnostician. Hope I said that correctly. Sorry, Alumna Norris, if I didn't. She assesses students with disabilities to ensure that they are receiving appropriate and adequate educational opportunities. Alumna Norris served 6 years as the president of the Houston chapter of CAU, National Alumni Association, and is currently serving in an interim capacity. She has also faithfully served her local chapter as vice president, financial secretary, recruitment chair, and currently treasurer. Alumna Norris currently serves the National Alumni Association as the vice president and has formerly served as vice president of undergraduates, recording secretary, vice president of undergraduates and graduates, and the National Recruitment and Retention Chair. She has worked with alumni chapters, affiliates, and the Office of Admissions to assist with recruiting across the country. Alumna Norris has successfully chaired 15 tours to the Atlanta University Center, providing hundreds of students with a CAU experience. She has been awarded with the President's Award from the National Alumni Association, as well as service to the Alumni Association. Alumna Norris is a proud parent of 14-year-old Grant Galt. She is committed to culture for service and will continue to trailblaze, leaving CAU her legacy with her time, talent, and definitely treasure. Alumna Norris, thank you so much for always being a part of serving your alma mater and for being a part of this panel today. How are you doing today? And you're on mute too, my dear.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm excited to be here and excited about being able to share with our constituents. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity. So thank you, Office of Alumni Relations, for thinking of me.
No problem. Always. I mean, we're definitely to have a faithful Panther. And now it's great that the world needs to hear about what you're doing. So, research has shown that resiliency is pretty common. People tend to demonstrate resilience more often than we think. One example of resilience is the response of people around the world supporting the Black Lives Matter campaign to strengthen and change racial injustice for the better. Do you sense that the road to resilience is always paved with emotional stress and strain? And is the outcome always the same? Because, right now we're kind of struggling with that. It always got to take something in order for us to build on something, but why not just continue to build on this?
Right. Chastity, that's a loaded question. First and foremost, I feel that we are filled and built with resilience because that's what we've always had to do as a people. We've always had to bounce back. We've had to fight for a vote. We had to fight for a seat on a bus, marching and walking. And so it's in our culture and our nature just to be able to bounce back, because to me, that's what resilience is. And I would say that, yes, sometimes it's out of emotional stress and strain, but sometimes it's because that's what you were taught. That's what you were taught. You just taught to be strong. And that could come from church. It could come from your family. My personal experiences, I feel like it's definitely come from people around me in church, being told you can do and be whatever you want to be. My mom telling me you can do and be whatever you want to be. No matter what the situation, fight through it. Carol Mitchell-Leon, very dear, I'm gonna call her a friend of mine, but she was also my professor. But she taught me that when you get lemons, you make lemonade. And so that's what resilience is about, is taking those sour patches, those sour parts, and creating something sweet and delicious. And also being at Clark Atlanta University, our motto, and I know we're talking about resilience, so we are hearing a lot, but find a way to make one. Like Fabian said, like that's real. Like if you can't go through the front door, go to the back door. If the back door is closed, go through the windows. But you can find a way. If you have that passion, if you have that faith, you can find your way through anything. And that's what being resilient is being.
And if the window is loud, bust through that bad boy.
Pick up a brick, because typically by windows there's a tree. So you can get a branch, a brick, a rock, whatever you need. You can find your way through. Yes.
So why do you think resilient people are adept at seeing things from another person's point of view? Like when we empathize with others, we feel less alone and less entrenched in pain. As a result, we recover faster. So I think you kind of touched base on that a little earlier, but kind of go into a little bit more detail in terms of that.
I think it's because we're able to accept what is and able to embrace change.
Yeah.
Because the ultimate goal is finding a way for you to be acceptable or to fight through whatever it is, whatever the struggle is. So it's a part of, like you're saying, empathizing with the next person and wanting to help them or see their way through the struggle. Just a personal story. We have so many. I had to go back to work, like physically, maybe like last week in the building. And so I was experiencing a lot of anxiety, like, oh my God, they don't care about me. What am I going to do? But I had to make a decision if I was going to let fear like control me, or if I was going to control my fear. And so in controlling my fear, I had to figure out, okay, like snap out of it, get yourself together and push through, because the decision has already made that you have to go to work. And Sally may say, I can't quit. Right? I can't quit. Sally may say I can't quit. So I have to make a decision to remain calm, get myself together, figure out what my purpose and plan is, and continue with that purpose and plan. because that's the only way I can be with success. That's the only way I can be happy. And I don't want to live my life in fear. I don't.
And you shouldn't have to, because if you have faith, no matter if it's the size of a mustard seed, fear does not live there, you know? So
I totally agree.
And you are a wonderful individual, and we are so happy that you don't have the Rona, and we gonna pray that you will not have the Rona going up in that job, because Sally Mae is not having it no matter what. Neither is Brent. So, you know, you're gonna be good to go.
Yes. And again, thank you guys so much for the opportunity. Panther family, stay safe. And I want to say this. I'm taking 2008, I flew from Houston to be a part of this series, and so in Atlanta, and so we're talking about resilience. You guys are showing resilience right now by having to transform. We can't meet face to face, and so you guys say, guess what? I'm bust the window. We're going to do this Paws to Claws virtual. So thank you guys for your resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Alumna Norris, for those essential tips and materials. If you all have any questions for Alumna Norris, please type them into the Q&A box in the Zoom control panel, and we will be sure to get to them during our Q&A session. Thank you so much, our Texan. Introducing our next panelist for this afternoon is Pastor Kia Moore. Alumna Pastor Moore is a proud alumna of White Station High School. She left Memphis to graduate at the top of her classes at both Clark Atlanta University and the University of Chicago. As an award-winning researcher, Alumna Pastor Moore accepted a call to ministry that has allowed her to reach large audiences. As a licensed and ordained elder with a decade of experience in ministry leadership, Alumna Pastor Moore has helped to shape strategy for some of the largest churches in the South. She is both the youngest clergy person to pray on the Tennessee House floor and to lead National Day of Prayer in Memphis alongside its mayor. She brings both her passion for preaching and her love for outreach to her church plant that is being shaped by her doctoral studies in seminary focused on forming churches. As pastor of the church at the Well, Alumna Pastor Moore is the first female African-American millennial church planter in this region by all accounts. The church at the Well is mission-minded and discipleship-focused. The motto is, get well, live well, make well, and encourages members to seek their own healing, live a pleasing life to God, and begin to help others begin the journey towards life in Christ. Within its first 30 days, the church started 5 missions and funded 3 initiatives. In 16 months, they funneled nearly $40,000 to missions, outreach, and individuals in need. As recent as last month, Alumna Pastor Moore and her team wiped out debt, brought groceries, paid medical bills, and helped to fund businesses for a dozen of during service as a surprise. They continued the generosity by purchasing gas and groceries for over 50 strangers in need. For more information about the ministry, search #WeMakeWells with an S on the end on all of their digital platforms. Alumna Pastor Moore married her longtime friend Tariq in 2015, and together they share a business and a nonprofit that afforded them the opportunity to be featured in Essence magazine 3 times. They have 1 daughter named Harper Dream. Thank you so much, Pastor Moore, for being a part of this panel and for always serving your alma mater. How are you doing today? Is she on? You're on mute. You're on mute, Pastor Moore.
Sorry, I pulled a fade. Memphis people see myself. But thank you guys so much for having me. It's an honor to see some familiar faces and meet some new people, and I'm honored to be included in this discussion.
Thank you so much. So we're going to jump right on in. So according to positivepsychology.com, mental health encompasses far more than the mere absence of disorders. There are a number of dimensions when it comes to positive mental health, one of which is resilience. So what does resilience mean to you in this context?
That's such a really good question. So I really like etymology and like the root words, looking up the origin of words. And so when you look at the root, the etymology of resilience, you get the words, the act of rebounding, to jump, or to recoil. And for me, when I heard recoil, I immediately thought about moving back in fear, because that's what you see in literature. But it also means to bounce back or to charge forward after an impact. And I think that that really is the spirit of the Panther, to be able to recoil when we meet obstacles. And so for me, I think maybe Ms. Jasho might be the only person familiar with this story, but in 2006, I was entering into my senior year at CAU. I just dated myself. Yes, I'm 35. I was headed to UC Berkeley for a summer program, and I went blind. Like, I could not see. And it was the most terrifying thing of my life, because the doctors were like, oh, you might have this illness, you might have that illness. If it comes back again, we're going to diagnose you. You might not be able to walk the rest of your life. They hit me with all of this, like in 2006. And so because I knew that that opportunity to go to Berkeley was too big to pass up, yeah, I got on the plane and went across the country with only 30% of my vision in one eye. And I completed the program, completed the research that got me a national award, came back, my vision was back and fine. But then I came back to homecoming in 2008 and it went away again. And y'all, I'm at the parties, like on the field with like 30% of my vision, like pretending like everything's fine, but I couldn't buckle up my gladiator sandals, and my best friend figured it out. So I went back home, ended up being diagnosed with an illness, but God told me that day that he would heal me, but that I just needed to walk it out, that it would bless people, that my journey would help people understand literally what resilience looks like. And so from 2006 to 2013, I lived, with an illness that took my vision several times, took my hearing once, took my ability to walk on my 22nd birthday. Like, my mother bathed me when I was 22, so embarrassing. But I just kept going. Like, I stayed in school, I stayed in graduate school, I was working at a nonprofit because I just refused to let that beat me. And that was me recoiling. Like, I was pushing back against this force. And for me, resilience means to find your rhythm again. So, ignore the things that are happening outside of you, but what does God have you here for? What is your purpose? What were you doing before this thing happened? And to find your posture again, right? Like, where was your heart pointed toward? That's what's going to help you move forward despite circumstances. And I always remind people about Mark 9:24. This is the passage of the Bible, not to preach to y'all, but y'all did call our preachers, so somebody give me an organ. But Mark 9:24 is a passage where there's a man who brings his demon-possessed son to Jesus. He says that he had gone to all the doctors. He had even tried the disciples, and nobody could help him. And his son had been dealing with this issue since birth. And what he says to Jesus is something that I think most churches miss, but it's so valuable to us in this season. He says to Jesus, I believe, help my unbelief. Unbelief. He's coming to Jesus in faith, but he admits that he has some unbelief. He has some fears. He has some doubts. He has some uncertainties. And while it temporarily frustrates Jesus that his disciples could not help this man, the man still got his miracle. So if you're watching this today and you're struggling with resilience, you don't think that, that you can have some doubts and some fears and some uncertainties, I want to encourage you and let you know that as long as you have enough faith, right, to move forward, that your unbelief cannot overpower the little bit of faith that you have, that you can have faith and doubts at the same time. You can have faith and anxiety at the same time. And the two of those combined is not enough to eliminate you from breaking through whatever the situation that you're facing.
Amen, girl. I mean, that's powerful. That's truly powerful. When the book coming out,
I got 3 devotions that are already out, but I am working on another one. And I meant to say this to Ms. Shantae, because you talked about COVID. There's a COVID-19 prayer that I put online. If you search hashtag the COVID-19 prayer, it's literally a new level for me in ministry. It's what I guess I would call bioprophetic. All of the biology stuff that I learned when I was a psych major doing all of that research at Morris Brown with the rats came together with my prophetic, and I'm literally breaking down how COVID enters the body and praying against it. And doctors reviewed it, because I was like, where am I getting this stuff from? Like, I don't know anything about ribosomes or all this stuff that God was giving me, but it's been shared, I don't know how many times, but thousands of people have watched it. But the next book is actually going to be a book of bioprophetic prayers, how we pray against things that happen to our bodies from a Christian standpoint.
Love it. I love it. Now, for everyone who is churning into this webinar today, bouncing back from adversity and misfortune, we know it's hard. So do not feel bad if someone may bounce back quicker than you, because, we're all different people. We have different types of personalities, different types of traits and everything. So what are some character strengths our alums can develop or strengthen to make all the difference? Like, never staying down too long, of course, we know is key. But especially during this time right now when people aren't really used to being alone, they're sectioned off because COVID has kind of like just put everybody into their own little bubble. So for those people that are really struggling with that, what are some strengths, in your opinion, that you think that they can develop?
I think the key word that first jumped out, because I read their questions backwards, is resilience. So I'd already wrote my notes and I was like, so I think resilience, again, what we just discussed is really important, but also these two things together for me, transparency and boundaries. So we have to figure out how to balance both of those. You have to have community. That's people that you love, people that support you, that you can be honest with about where you're going through, but you also need boundaries so that you know who you can share things with, when you can share them, and how much you can handle, because oftentimes, particularly in stressful situations, we forget our boundaries. We put ourselves in positions and situations that are not healthy for us. And then we end up, in some uncomfortable places mentally and emotionally because we let our boundaries down. And I think I'm a serious proponent of boundaries. I went through 10 years of ministry without boundaries. And then when I started pastoring, people who were not even my members had my number. They were calling me at 3:00 in the morning because their boyfriend liked somebody else's picture on Facebook. And I was like, okay, look, I got to get some boundaries because you're not even my sheep. And you think it's okay to text me at 3:00 in the morning because Rico liked somebody's picture. So boundaries, everybody say it with me, boundaries, right? And so you need transparency. You need people that you can talk to, people you can share things with, but you need boundaries. You can protect yourself. And then finally, the word that people don't say in churches, and I don't know why, therapy. You need a therapist, a licensed and trained person who, by the way, does not have to be Christian, because oftentimes the Christian counselors at churches are not skilled or licensed. There are a lot who are, but oftentimes when you go to church for counseling, it is not someone who is licensed. And I know this because the research that I did when I was blind is I went to New Orleans. 2006 was when Katrina happened. And so Berkeley sent us to New Orleans. We gutted houses and we talked to people on the ground. And I interviewed the pastors. This was me running from my calling, thinking that I could research pastors and God wouldn't make me preach. Anyway, so I interviewed all of the pastors, and all of them said that they did not feel comfortable counseling people through that trauma. One, because they were going through their own trauma, and two, because they did not have behavioral science degrees. And so if your pastor does not have a degree in pastoral counseling, which is an actual degree separate from going to seminary, then they may or may not be qualified to help you through trauma. So find you a therapist who we hope is a believer, right? Because you don't want, if you're a believer, I'm sorry, I'm preaching. This is not a Christian event. Find you a therapist who's licensed, right? So scratch what I just said. Find you a therapist who's licensed, because it will help you. It will help you learn who to be transparent with. It'll help you learn how to set boundaries. And it'll help you learn how to channel your resilience, because some of us are resilient to a fault. We will fight a wall if we don't like the way the wall looks, and that's not healthy either. So I would suggest that you need to be resilient. You need to be transparent with safe people in safe places, and you need to create boundaries that allow for you to flourish in places where your purpose is most served. And you need a therapist, a licensed person who can deal with trauma, who can deal with behavioral issues, who is skilled, and the state knows who they are. Amen. Not the person online that's a life coach, because they don't have no credentials. Amen. Praise God.
Girl, look, you said a whole mouthful, and I'm over here taking notes low key on my little phone. So I'm like, okay, let me see, hashtag prayers, But thank you so much.
Put it in the comments to that prayer. I'll do that.
Girl, yes. Look, drop that in the chat if you don't mind. Because I'm sure it's a lot of people that are on this call today that definitely need some. So, you're here, all of you all on this call today, on this panel today, are here for a reason. So definitely, whatever you like to share, drop it in there, because you never know whose life you may be touching today. So thank you guys so much again. If you all have questions for Alumna Pastor Moore, please type them into the Q&A box in the Zoom control panel now. We will be sure to get to them during our Q&A session. Thank you so much, Alumna Moore. We appreciate that so much. All right, now, last but not least, we started with the alpha. Now we're ending with the omega. Yeah, you know I had to throw that in there. I had to throw it in there. So our final panelist for this afternoon is alumnus Marcus A. Kendrick Jr. Originally from Sanford, Florida, alumnus Kendrick moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 2006 to pursue a bachelor's degree in business administration at Clark Atlanta University. After graduating in 2011, alumnus Kendrick began his professional career in higher education as an enrollment management officer in the Office of Recruitment and Admissions, also at CAU. Having served 5 years in enrollment management with CAU, alumnus Kendrick accepted an offer to become the primary transfer counselor in the Office of Admissions at Georgia State University. During his time at GSU, alumnus Kendrick had the opportunity to assist in the consolidation process between Georgia State University and Georgia Perimeter College. The GSU at Perimeter College consolidation successfully added 5 more campuses to the Georgia State University portfolio. That's awesome. Congratulations on that. In 2016, alumnus Kendrick made the pivotal decision to return to CAU to serve as an administrative intern to the athletic director, Dr. Jaylyn Dawson, and the CAU athletics department. In 2017, he joined the student leadership and engagement team to serve as the program coordinator. In this role, alumnus Kendrick is responsible for the continued development of the Panther Fit Center and the CAU Intramural Sports Program. Alumnus Kendrick's aspiration is to serve as a NCAA Division I institution as their athletic director. In addition, he plans on developing small businesses and launching a life skills nonprofit organization called DOPE, D-O-P-E. Alumnus Kendrick's favorite quote is, "The will to win means nothing without the will to prepare." And who is that by?
That's Juma Ikanga. He's a marathon runner from Tanzania. And good afternoon.
Nice, nice. Well, thank you so much, alumnus Kendrick, and good afternoon to you. Thank you for so much for always serving your alma mater and for being a part of this panel today.
Problem. Thanks for having me. And I just wanted to show my resilience by taking that mute button off before we started. So
yes.
Right, got you.
It had to take an omega to clear things up, right?
Words, your words.
So we're going to go ahead and go to your question, sir. So in essence, resilience helps you handle stress more positively. You know, everything in life is about balance. Without the darkness, you would not appreciate the light. Without sadness, you would not appreciate joy. Like the yin and the yang, you both need positive and negative emotions and experiences to appreciate what you have. Do you agree with this statement? And have you, alumnus Kendrick, found your resilience yet?
I do agree with that statement. And again, I do want to say thank you for having me here. It definitely is an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. Balance, being the fact that I'm in an environment dealing with health, wellness, and fitness, I may start gearing off into the athletic or fitness conversation on this, so feel free to bring me back around. However, within life, shout out to our brother, Shawty Lowe, there must be two sides, right? So in having your two sides, your positive and your negative, you'll always be able to have an efficient product come out. A lot of times, a lot of people look at failure as something that is devastating to their lives. But I also have had that thought in my life, but through going through my obstacles, my situations, and building resilience, I would understand that failure is necessary within the process. Success is definitely something that we all seek after, but if we don't understand that the positive comes with the negative, we'll never really reach that point of having resilience. Referring to me specifically, me getting up here to Atlanta, Georgia in itself was something of a resilient process. Just giving a little personal background, the only reason I really came up to Atlanta, Georgia was following a friend of mine in high school who wanted us to go to school together. I was a Florida-bound kid. I wanted to stay in Sanford. Well, I didn't want to stay in Sanford. I wanted to go to Florida State University, pursue athletics, et cetera, et cetera. So once I got the opportunity to come here, I took a negative situation, me being in Sanford, Florida, and not necessarily not having all my ducks in a row, to coming up here to Atlanta to really figuring out life and making sure that I took the best step forward in everything that I wanted to do. So my resilience comes from continuously looking forward and making sure that I did what I needed to do after I had my failures. So
I feel like Sanford, Florida, has some resilience to do as well, because that's a very interesting city that you come from, being where it kind of all started.
And also, I put an age out there. I actually got to Clark in 2006. So it was a pleasure interacting with all of y'all. Kareem is actually one of my Brawley Hall brothers. So to continue this process, I'm actually honored. And the irony, Fabian was my RA. So,
wow.
Right, irony. Coming from Sanford, it's not a big active town. The biggest city we have next to us is Orlando. So a lot of what we experience as far as being profiled, not necessarily having the resources available to us, those are things that I had to grow up with. And fortunately, I grew up with a coach in the household, and we grew up in a spiritual household as well. So a lot of foundation was set for me. So the biggest thing that I pulled from my upbringing to being here in Atlanta is the foundation, the discipline. You raise a child in the way that he should go, so and the things I do not only for myself and family and friends, what I do for the institution, not only leading by example, but it's my duty to make sure that we're showing people how to be resilient. It isn't my thought that Clark Atlanta is a school, just being fully honest with you. We're a training facility, and within training, you're going to have your failures, you're going to have your obstacles, but you're always going to find a way to make one. So
exactly. So the more you can leverage challenges as opportunities to grow and evolve, the more resilient you are likely to be. In the words of Dr. David Sabine, pain comes to all of us in life. He's also a great clinical psychologist that I follow. He's actually from Wichita Falls, Texas. And he also states that what we see resilient people do is immediately look at the problem and say, what's the solution to this? What is this that you're trying to teach me? And I think that we have definitely been answering these questions today with each one of you all, because we do have these solutions that we have to solve. And we are looking at these problems now, and we're asking, ourselves, what are we doing? What is this problem saying to me? So do you feel that looking at pain is an opportunity to learn, to problem solve, to build confidence and habits to move forward the pain instead of running from it, which goes a long way in building resiliency? Because we could definitely speak to, like I said, where you're from, Sanford, Florida. The town is known for the killing of Trayvon Martin. So a lot of resiliency had to come from that. In terms of what is occurring now with the movements, all around the world. Like, people were tired of it, so they had to say, what's the solution to this? What is this trying to teach me? Because this keeps happening entirely too much.
Well, first, let me clean up Sanford, Florida a little bit. I'm not gonna let you, just
clean it up. Clean it up. Clean it up, Orlando.
Obviously, that was the most recent of situations to occur. However, Sanford was actually founded by a gentleman who worked for the United States government, Caucasian gentleman. But Sanford was a port city. It was a very big vacation spot and trade port when those entities were starting to establish themselves over here in this particular country. Sanford is also a place where Jackie Robinson had some of his first baseball games. So having some background in Mellonville Stadium and actually growing up with a sports background, I actually played in that same stadium before. So we have a lot more great than we do the bad, but that goes to the question about the resilience and even hammering home more my point earlier about you got to have two sides. If you never know how bad it can be, you'll never know how good it can be. Right.
Exactly.
So referring back to the question that was asked, obstacles are inevitable. I believe. Okay, so we all gonna preach on this call today. So thank you, Faye. Thank you, Madam Norris. Thank you, Madam Moore. So my favorite Bible verse, my favorite thing to live by. I know I gave the will to win. Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. So when we're going into anything, we have a vision of what we want it to be. However, we might not necessarily see that particular vision, but we feel it. You know, it comes from a particular place where we know if we can obtain it, it'll either do good for ourselves or even for the world. So when it comes to building resilience, you have to have a certain amount of faith. Being in the fitness environment, I'm always encouraging people to build through the pain, obviously. Mm-hmm. So with some of our students, I always say pain today, beauty tomorrow, because understanding of this generation currently is very much so aesthetic, is visual, so cosmetic. So if they really want the results that they come and ask me to assist them with, I always, during their process, inform them pain today, beauty tomorrow, because you have to go through something painful in order to be able to what it comes to. As my brother Kafabian would know, it's a very, very difficult thing to see it in ways that we didn't have it and still want to be able to improve it and develop it. So we may have had a pain in a particular environment. Ms. Moore mentioned that she was in Ware Hall. Ware Hall was like open one particular year when I was in school. So
me too.
So the pain that she may see coming on campus for homecoming in 2021, look out for it. The pain that she may feel coming and seeing Ware Hall closed may encourage her to find a group of her friends, alumni, corporate, ministry, however, to come in and put money into this facility so other people can have that same experience. So drawing faith back into it, I wouldn't have gotten anything that I've gotten now without my faith. I've had many failures that I had to look at as opportunities, because if I didn't look at them as opportunities, I probably wouldn't be on the call today. And that's for a lot of us. As we mentioned mental health and going to get in therapy. Obviously, there are two Black men on this call. And out of the two Black men, we definitely stand up as making sure that we lead by example. That's a very burden, especially being in this environment where our ratio is more female than male. So we now become the father figure, uncle, big brother, et cetera, for those people who come to this campus, not only, male, but female as well, because they're coming for guidance as well. With every burden comes a blessing, though. So if you're willing to take on the burden, be open and willing with your hands to get that blessing. So you got to have faith. You got to go through the pain to get the beauty. And that's resilience, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Alumnus Kendrick. I mean, you have definitely touched some really live nuggets here, and we thank you so much for being on the call, and we thank you for definitely having a presence on this university and for, mentoring our young men on this campus. So thank you so much for all that you do.
No problem. Can I also echo one more thing? We said fear a lot within this conversation, and no, it wasn't to a negative extent, but if you realize fear is only something to shake you up, shaking you up and moving you forward are two different things. Anything that you have coming into your realm and is negative and is pulling you down, that's something to shake you up. It is a fear to shake you up. Fear is a mind killer. Don't allow yourself to kill your mind. Move forward. Body motion stays in motion. Like we used to were in school, if you ain't living, you dying. So keep living, y'all.
I like it. I like it. Well, thank you so much again, Alumnus Kendrick, for breaking it down and for bringing your awareness. If you all have any questions for Alumnus Kendrick, please type them into the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel now. We'll be sure to get to them during our Q&A session. Thank you all so much to our wonderful alumni panelists for the insightful gems, for the advice, for the prayers, for the ministry, for the amens that we have received today. And we hope for you all that are on the call that these gems have been released today to go forth with you. We will go ahead and take some time for our questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box in your control panel. Now is the time to engage with your alums and network. So it looks like we have a few questions. Let's check them out. All righty, so our first question today comes from alumnus Constantine Thomas. And this question is for Alumna Norris. He said, do you think that determination to be an educator has contributed to your success? And you're on.
Yes. Absolutely. Honestly, and if you ever talk to me, I'll talk about Carol Mitchell-Leon a lot because she was a great influence on me. But she's actually the person who encouraged me to become an educator. She got me my first job at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta. And so think about me, young 19-year-old teaching kids at the Alliance Theater in Georgia. I mean, like, oh my God, largest theater at that time, probably still. But I'm a helper. So yes, being an educator drives me to help others meet with success. That's absolutely. So being an educator and wanting to help others reach their goals and meet with success is an important part of who I am. So I would say yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alumna Norris, for your answer. Thank you so much, Alumnus Thomas, for your question. The next question is also from Alumnus Thomas, and this question is to Alumna Pastor Moore. He said, do you think that having a strong support system will help you in bringing resilience? And
See, I'm gonna blame that on Marcus that my mute was still on. I feel like you just spoke it in the atmosphere. Can't do right. Yeah, I believe. Now we were talking about my light. Now y'all look at my hat disappearing in my green screen. So yeah, I do believe that you need a strong support system. That's what I meant when I said community. And you got to vet people. Like some people may only be able to help you in one season and they may not be able to help you in the next because maybe they don't have the capacity. But yeah, you need a strong support system, but that support system may change depending on the season of your life. All the people I used to party with before I started preaching, and then when I got sick and went blind, baby, I ain't heard from them since. It was like, no, you was cool when you were the strong person that we can come to when we needed something. But now that you need us, we can't do it. And I had to make sure that I didn't let bitterness enter into my heart. And then I found new people and then reconnected with people who had always been there for me, but maybe I didn't realize could be who they needed to be to me at that moment. And so your support systems may change depending on the season, but you need a support system, and you don't need to become bitter when you realize that some people just can't walk with you right now. That's just life, and God will send you who you need to have.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Our next question is for Alumnus Heard. Can you hear us, Alumnus Heard?
I can.
Okay. Your question is, how do you think that we can show our African-American men that are currently on this campus, because we did talk about the ratio of a large amount of women compared to a short amount of our young men. How can we get them to show resilience? Because we know that they are from different backgrounds. They have different issues that are going on. Some of them have lived a full life, before even coming to campus. So how can we get them to open up, show that true meaning of resilience?
Well, definitely. I'm glad you asked that question because I am actually currently in the process of just branding the Men of CAU brand. And last year was our basically our liftoff on that brand with getting our first Mr. Clark Lane University. And I think that going into this next season, and Marcus can attest to this, we both are very adamant about pushing the Men of CAU to another level in terms of getting a standard and getting the image out there so that the Men of CAU can have something to look after. And I think a lot of times when it comes to resilience, they just need an example. A lot of times Black men don't have examples, and it's very important that men like myself and Marcus, men like Mr. Surrey, D. McKinney, who are out there present, showing them the example of what resilience is and being transparent. I don't know how transparent other men on campus are, but myself and I know Mr. Kendricks, we're very transparent with just life. And Black men especially, have to know the real deal when it comes to existing in this world and the steps we have to take to be prosperous and be successful. And it's not always easy. It's never easy. And I think that with dealing with the men on Clark University campus, going into this new year, and especially going to it virtually, I think one of the biggest struggles is going to be motivating the young men to stay in class, to do school virtually, to do online classes when it's sometimes a struggle in person. So one thing that I want to do is definitely open that outlet, just have them to be able to contact us anytime, just to get motivation, just to get inspiration, to get tutoring opportunities. I think that's going to help us in just keeping the ratio, at least starting to move the ratio up, because one of my biggest concerns is African Americans in HBCUs and African Americans in higher education, period. And I feel like men especially need that push to continue to be in higher education and continue to defeat the odds in terms of the stereotypes of African American men. But like I said, we have Men of CAU was going to be a big pillar on the campus this year. I think that alone is going to definitely push the men on our campus to just have an example and be an example.
Exactly. I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you so much for that answer, Alumnus Hurd. The final last question goes to Alumnus Kendrick. So Alumnus Kendrick, as the current program coordinator for the student leadership in, what is it? What is it called? Yeah, student leadership and engagement team. Are there any current programs and initiatives that you are working on through Panther Fit to, definitely help with what Alumnus Hurd was discussing? I mean, even not just going towards our young men, but just towards our young women as well, because they also need help, showing some type of resilience as well, and just understanding that wall of transparency and, being open and understanding self-care.
So it is always my responsibility when I interact with any of our young men on campus to ensure that they know that I'm here to empathize with them, and I'm open and transparent with them enough so they can be able to come to me to request anything. So for instance, I've had a student, being the fact that I'm responsible for all of our recreation and fitness processes, I've had a student to come and ask me about wrestling on campus. So it was my duty to go and do the research and make the proposals available so the higher powers that be could, finance the situation so we could end up launching it, operating it, and growing it. So in this particular case, during the COVID portion of this semester, I will be putting together some virtual activities for not only our male students, but for all of our students to participate in. But yoga and some other mental health activities are things that we usually incorporate here on campus. So carrying things that are on campus as of the last couple of years and trying to make that transition go virtual, obviously in my case is very difficult. However, I don't shy away from going towards difficult things. That's why my resilience is built so strong. So my plan is to have some form of okay, we learn differently. I don't have any children yet, but we learn differently as growing males and females. We like to hit our head as young males, and y'all like to, yeah. So as young ladies on the phone, make that statement of whatever you all do, because I don't have any kids yet. So, but I do know that I have godsons and a nephew. So we like to hit our head and kind of break stuff and go through the handwork of stuff. So finding some type of opportunity for the males to do that's physical over the break is my current focus. Sitting in the house and being in front of the screen all day is an issue for them. They're gonna have to find some type of way to release, and that goes to that first question you asked about stress. So it is my intention to do some virtual programming, only for the fitness side, but our campus activities board is working strong to develop some virtual programming for the students to find a release, not only mentally, but also academically as well. So,
Awesome.
yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Alumnus Kendrick, for your answer and for all that you do. Thank you all so much for all that you do on this panel today. And thank you all to our attendees for your questions. Please stay in contact with our alumni and look out for our upcoming webinars, which will take place every Thursday, rotating now from noon until 1 p.m. and from 6 until 7 p.m. So, immediately following this webinar, you will receive a post survey. Please let us know what you think about today. Your feedback is very valuable and is truly appreciated. Great. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you being here. Super special thanks to my colleagues, Senior Director of Alumni Relations. Some of you all may call her Mama Josho, Mrs. Josho, Gaylen. I'm not really sure what your relationship is with her, but Mrs. Gaylen E. Gatewood Josho and Dr. Michelle Rhodes for their stellar service, and to all of our wonderful panelists for a remarkable job today. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next week at noon. Look out for the announcements, and we hope to see you all soon. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social platforms at CAU Alumni Relations. All right, have a great day, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your week and an awesome weekend. Godspeed.